Hello friends, thank you for joining us for this chess video for beginning players. Let's get right to it. When you play chess, you need to make sure that the board is oriented the way that it's supposed to be. It has white and black squares, or dark and light squares, however you want to think of it. The light square has to be on the right-hand side of the board and the dark square on the left-hand side. Because if you do it different than that, it just doesn't work out. It's not. You'll learn it as you learn chess, but be sure you have the board oriented with the white square on the right and the black on the left before you even start anything else. As an example, I set the board up for this video. Now, I didn't even pay attention to that. I set it up wrong and I had to change it. I had to move all the pieces around to put them where they're supposed to be. Another thing about the game of chess is that white always moves first. So when you sit down with someone, you may take a couple of pieces in your hand and mix them up and put them behind your back and then let somebody choose which color they get. And whichever color they get, that means they get to move first. That may not be a huge advantage, but it's considered a great advantage. The higher in chess you get, the better advantage it is to have that first incredible move, and it determines how the game is going to go, believe it or not. But nevertheless, white goes first, and so you want to keep that in your mind. Now, all the pieces. The most common piece is the pawn. The pawns are the front row of your soldiers, and there's 8 of them, and they move forward. They can only move forward. They can never move back. Pawns only move forward. And it would be good for you to play a game where all you do is play against yourself with pawns. You would move your pawn. The pawn can move 1 piece or 2 pieces at the first time. So I'm going to move this pawn 2 pieces or 2 places. Then I'll move this pawn here 2 places. So we take turns moving. Now, pawns take at an angle. They don't take straight ahead. They don't jump over anything. Don't try to jump a pawn over anything. It can't do it. Don't try to move a pawn backward. It doesn't work that way. Pawns only take at an angle. So when this pawn is here, you can decide you want to take it or not. Some really master players say, you know what, whoever takes is probably making a mistake. And here's why. So when you move your pawns, they can only move forward, and they cannot move back, and they can't jump over anything. So, if you say you move your pawn 1, you can move it 1 or 2. You can move it 1 or 2 places, however you want to do. Whatever you have in mind is your strategy. And so then the other player moves a pawn up 2, because that's their strategy. And so then you decide, wow, I want to move mine up 2 as well. And then these pawns are attacking each other. On the next move, this pawn can take that pawn if it wants to. It may not want to. It may be a mistake. It may be an error. It may be part of their master plan. Because if black takes that pawn and then white takes this pawn, then black is at a great advantage. Black's queen can move all the way up here and take white's queen. And then black's king has to take, he's in check. So at checkmate, he takes that queen. So this king lost castling rights, and the setup is, the advantage is for black at this point because white fell for the bait. And that's one of the things that happens in chess. But it would probably be a good idea for you to play a game against yourself, and all you do is move pawns. Move it 1 place, and 1 place, and maybe 2 places, and this 2 places, and this 1 place, and maybe this 2 places, and then white, will take that pawn off the board, and then maybe black will move, and then white could take that pawn off the board. Pawns only take at an angle. Now, there's something else about pawns that you need to know, and it's a thing that pawns can do only at one point in the game. 1 place in the game, they can do something called en passant. If your pawn is sitting right here, you've moved it up. Maybe you moved and they moved their pawns up like this or something to do some strategy or some strategic thing. If they move their pawn here, then you can take it, obviously, right? Because it takes at an angle. But if they move their pawn 2 places, you can still take their pawn. It's called en passant, which I believe is French for in passing. So you took that pawn as it passed by. You can only do it right after the move. So if they move here, and you ignore it and you move here, you've lost the chance to take in passant. You have one chance only. Don't try to take in passant a couple moves later. That won't work well. It's against the rules, and it makes people sad. So don't do that. So you want to be sure that you do that with your pawns. So that's what your pawns, how they work. And then this is your, we'll start with the rook. It's on the end. The rook moves it can move all the way across. Now, if the rook has, if there's a pawn in the way and that pawn's protected, the rook isn't going to take that because the rook is worth 5 points and the pawn is worth 1 point. So the rook would be lost, and the black would only have lost a pawn and white would have lost a rook. So you don't want to take a piece with your rook that is lesser value. You don't want to trade it for that. You want to trade it for something important. So it'd be good to play a game with just the rooks, get everything else off the board, and move the rooks here and move them around and whatever. So when a rook can see another rook along a row, a rank or a file, when a rook can see another rook on a rank or a file, it can take it. As a matter of fact, when a rook can see anything on a rank or file, it can take it. So if white's bishop was over here and black's rook was here and that bishop was unprotected, then the rook could just slide over here and take that bishop, and it would be forever lost, at least for that game. So that's how the rook moves. The knight has a different matter. It can move when the knight is here. The knight is the only piece that can jump over the other pieces. Don't try to jump over pieces with any other piece. It won't go well. It doesn't work that way. But the knight can jump over the other pieces. So the knight can go up 2 and over 1, either way. So it can go up 2 and over 1 this way. If this pawn was moved up, the knight... If this pawn was moved up, the knight could go up 1 and over 2. So the knight moves in an L shape. That's very important for the game. So it would be good if you played a game just with the knight. Set the board up. You pretend to be white and get the knight up. Black moves and gets the knight up. You play both sides. And then you get this knight up. You're going to do it on this side this time. And so then black comes out and moves over here as well. Then it's white's turn. So white moves up 2 and over 1 right there. And look at that. Black's knight can take it. It can go over 2 and up 1, or up 1 and over 2. Either way, black wins that knight. And so then maybe you want to see what you can do to trick one of the knights into doing something. And now this knight moved over 1 and down 2. And these knights are protecting each other. Look at that. This knight is protecting that knight. So even if this knight somehow were able to take this knight here could go and take it. So play a whole game, 2 or 3 games, just with the knights to see how they move and how comfortable you're going to be with moving the knights. And knights are worth 3 points. Bishops are worth 3 points. So they're worth about the same. Now, really people disagree on that, okay? You may find disagreement, but they're considered to be the same amount of points. So this bishop is on white. You can't get it out because there's pawns in the way. So if you move this pawn up here, you can move your bishop here. And that's actually, that's a great place to put your bishop because your bishop can see all the way across the board. And if your opponent isn't paying attention and moves that pawn up, then this bishop can go all the way over here and get that knight, that rook for free. And so it's a 3-point piece, a 5-point piece, but it got away free. And so, hopefully that they won't, if they move somewhere like that, you may lose your bishop, but hopefully you'll be able to get your bishop away scot-free and go back here so that to fight another day. But anyway, that's a good place to put the bishop. So maybe play a game just with getting your bishops out. So I got my bishop out, and now I'm going to move. This up, and black's going to move up to where he can get his bishop out. I'll just put that like that, and so that bishop can come out. I've got a place for my bishop, so I'm going to put this bishop here and protect that, and because it takes at an angle, and then black's going to go and protect this pawn. And then what can I do with my bishops? I'll go ahead and move my bishop here just to move it, get it used to moving. And then this is the light-colored square bishop or the white bishop. or white-colored square bishop, and so it moves like that, and it moves. So play an entire game with yourself, just moving the bishops. I think you're really going to enjoy it, and it really helps you get used to how the bishops move in the game. And it may take you a little while. Don't worry if it takes you longer than you would like it to, okay? Because playing chess improves your brain ability. Playing chess improves your ability to focus and concentrate and have patience. It does a lot of really good things to play chess. So that is the rook, the pawn, the knight, the bishop. Now, let's look at the queen is supposed to be in her own color. There we go. It's white on the right and queen on her own color. So the queen is usually a little shorter than the king. Not always. Every chessboard is different a little bit, but generally speaking, the king will be a little taller than the queen. So the queen can't get out. You know, she's like so powerful. She combines the power of the rook and the bishop. She can't move like a knight. The knight is unique in that. And so I'm going to move this pawn up so I can get my queen out the next move. And so black moves a pawn up to, stop that pawn's motion. And then I can move the queen out. So I got the queen out. And so black can get their queen out too. So they can put their queen in. And if the queens can see each other, they can be taken. So at that point, white could say, oh, I want to get rid of you, naughty queen, and take the queen. And says, no problem. I'll just take this queen and get rid of it as well. So now we have a game with no queens. And it's a fine way to play. It's even. Everybody has the same amount of pieces on the board. White is at an advantage. I'll get to that later. But that is one of the cool things. So the queen can move any direction that she wants to go. So let's just put this back where the queens did not take each other. And so it's white's turn to move. And I'm just going to move over here and get the queen out. And then this queen can move at an angle. And then this queen can move at a straight back and forth. And this queen can move here, wherever she wants to move. I mean, you don't want to lose your queen. You want to be careful where you move your queen. And so this queen can move there. So play a whole game just with moving the queens around. I think you'll really enjoy that. It'll get you very used to how the pieces move one piece at a time. And really, it's really good to play games with yourself. Anyway, now the last piece, the piece we all fight for, is the king. In some ways, the king is the weakest member on the board, okay? It can only move one move at a time. Yes, it can move in a direction, but silly old chess rules, one square at a time. Can you imagine that? You're the most powerful king on the kingdom, but you can only take baby steps. Everybody else can run circles around you. Oh well, so be it. So, but the king cannot move over other pieces. Don't try to jump the king over other pieces. It's against the rules. Doesn't work. So we're going to move this piece out, and then we're going to just play with the kings. And so we're going to move this piece out. Notice the symmetry of the chessboard. We have the queen and the bishop and the knight and the rook. And over here, the queen, bishop, knight, and rook. And then the king, bishop, knight, rook, king, bishop, knight, rook. There's a beautiful symmetry to the chessboard. Just think about that a little bit. So now it's white's move. I'm going to get my king out one move at a time. This king can come out one move at a time. So then I'm going to go ahead and move this up here. I'm trying to get my king out and go do battle. You do use your king to do battle later in the game. So one thing that you can't, so I'm going to keep moving here, and this king is going to move here. The king can't move there because he's in check. The king can't move anywhere in check. So all these squares around the king, this king can't go to. This king goes here. So this king can't go there because he would be in check with the king and the pawn. He can move there, though, so it's going to move there. So this king is going to move here, and then this one, he can't move here because it's in check. He can't move there. He can only move there. So the king has some weaknesses. And so this king moves here. And so when you attack the king, you can call check in games, conference games or whatever, or I can't think of the word right this second. Oh my goodness! When you have a competition, a chess competition, and you're playing, you don't really say check every time you put the king in check. Your opponent is just supposed to know that, ideally, and some people do, some don't. Anyway. Here is, I'm going to put the king back where he belongs and get him back. And that is all the pieces. So all the pieces are, that's how they move. And you want to get very familiar with how the pieces move. Don't worry about it. Just play chess. I've hurt myself. Did I put this note on the board? Even if it hurts, play chess. Can you see that? I don't know. Even if it hurts, just play chess. I have hurt myself by being so worried about playing chess I'm going to lose. I wouldn't play for a few weeks. How ridiculous is that? Just play the game. Doesn't matter if you lose. You're going to either lose and learn something, or you're going to win and you're going to celebrate. I say celebrate each time. Big words, big words. You can look at me on chess.com and see how well I did with that. So I go through phases. Anyway, so I want to show you something called castling. Castling is where you get the king all by itself and get something. So I'm going to go ahead and do an opening here. I'm going to go ahead and do a king's pawn opening, and then black is going to respond with their own king's pawn. And so then usually you want to move your knights before your bishop. So I'm going to get my knight out. And so black probably do the same thing, get their knight out and get ready to roll. And so then I need to get my bishop out. So maybe move my bishop. I may move my bishop all the way up here and threaten that knight. That's the Ruy Lopez opening. Everything has a name in chess. It's crazy. You don't have to learn those names if you don't want to, but they're kind of cool. So now it's black's turn to move. And maybe they move a pawn up here so that that's just what they decide to do, to protect this pawn and open up their board a little bit. And so now my king can castle. When you castle, with one hand, move the king 2 places and put the rook on the other side. That's the only way to castle. I see people all the time that move. If you move the rook 2 places, if you're in a competition game, they can say, you meant to move the rook. You didn't mean to castle. Whoa, I meant to castle. Nope, you moved the wrong piece. So if you want to be correct, move the king 2 places and castle on that side. This is castling on the short side of the board. Let me show you what happens if you castle on the other side of the board. Let's get these pieces out of the way. And so you're ready to castle on this side of the board. You still only move the king 2 places, 1, 2, and then put your rook here. You've got 2 squares here for the king. This pawn is unprotected. This is the long side because your king had to walk. There's more places for the king to go. See what happens if the king is over here, moves 2 places and puts the rook on the side. All these pawns are protected. So that's castling on the long side and castling on the short side. Now then, when you castle, let's put my pieces kind of back in order here and get them a little more ready to go. I want to show you something about castling that's very important. If somehow white had this pawn up and black had their bishop there, there's no way to castle. You can't castle and move through check. You can't put yourself in check. It's against the rules. You just lose the game. If you want to fight about that, the game is lost. So if there's something that keeps you from going over and castling, you can't do it. So a real strategic move is if say you have your pieces out in a different way, and how would there we go. So if black had their light-colored squared bishop right here, it would keep you from castling because that rook protects that, and you can't castle. So that is everything for a beginning chess video. So look at the next video that's going to cover some moves and some strategies and some openings. But this is the basic thing. Get these basics down. Go on and start playing games. You can play against the bots on either Lichess or chess.com, and you can play against people as well, and just move the pieces around, get familiar with how they move before you try to really think about strategies and openings. And, be sure you don't break the rules and make somebody sad. Have a fantastic day.